Hi, everybody. I'm Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
And so I was asked to speak about money and alcoholism, and I could talk a lot about that. I would say that I grew up in a religious upbringing where the religion was money, and money was God, and money was to be worshipped, and money was to be feared and hoarded. And part of that, I understand my parents' story is that they were immigrants. So my dad came from a poor family in Hong Kong, and my mom came from a rich family. But when my mom's parents died, the sons get everything and the daughters get nothing. So they emigrated to Canada, and they were very poor. And they worked their way through college, where my dad was a barber and my mom was a secretary. And they would talk a lot about the hot dog and the can of soup that would have to last for 3 days. And they did get their college degrees, and then they moved to the U.S. And as a kid, I could see how hardworking they were, and I was really confused by it because they had their professional jobs, but they also, in addition to that, ran a restaurant and were landlords of 5 duplexes. So they were constantly working, like just working, and it was always about acquiring money. And they did. They acquired a lot of money, and then it turned into a lot of fear. It was very fear-based, though, because we lived as very poor. I guess we lived as like poor, I guess. That's what I would say as a kid, that it seemed like we have a lot, but we didn't act like we had a lot. So it was very confusing. And they would say that we're very fearful of going back to those days of the hot dog and soup. So there was a lot of fear of poverty that drove the whole money issue. And so I tended to look at money as like a Santa Claus god. Like I would do things to get rewarded financially. So when I was a kid, I would donate money to televangelists on TV. And I remember when I would go to church as a young adult, I would tithe, because I thought tithing would bring back the returns. And that didn't really work because my motive wasn't really healthy. It was more to manipulate and gain favoritism, and thought, if I do this, then I'll be rewarded with money. And, and I also approached money a lot like I tried to approach God. Like, not only with trying to do good and being rewarded and trying not to do bad to not get punished, but I thought, well, if I learn a lot about money, maybe that will help me. And so I would read a lot of books and take classes and do seminars and learn about, poverty thinking and prosperity thinking and so forth. And, still that was a lot of self-will. And I approached my disease of alcoholism in the same way, like a lot of self-help. I tried to fix myself. I tried to do all these self-help things and different types of therapies. And again, it was just all self-will driven. And then with this obsession of acquiring money, I would just play do sweepstakes. I wasn't brave enough to gamble, though. I wasn't brave enough to go to casinos. Like that's like a little too much. But I tried to do get-rich schemes, and it just didn't work. And so I made money my higher power, but I also realized that I made sources of money my higher power. So my employers were my higher power. And, I would endure unacceptable treatment from employers and jobs because, well, I'm getting paid. Well, I got good benefits. it'll get better. Oh, and maybe it'll get better someday. And I think that's a lot of my character defect, Al-Anon thinking, is that, I guess growing up in an alcoholic home, it was just like, oh, it'll get better. Hopefully it'll get better. And, but it didn't. I also endured unacceptable treatment from my parents because money was always the carrot that was dangled. And, so they would dictate a lot of things with money in my relationship with them. And I also realized that with money, I would hold on so tightly to money. And that's what I did with people, too. It's like we hear in the program about, I didn't have relationships, I took hostages. So with money, with people, I'd hold on so tight, they would run away. They would always want to get away from me. And so money was like the same. Like I'd hold on to it so tight, and then something would happen, some crisis that would drain me financially or something. And so kind of like with God and with people, the disease of alcoholism hits all areas of my life. So with money, I also had that love-hate relationship. And I would, like with God, I would just write him off. Oh, he doesn't care about me, so screw him. And the same thing with money. Well, money I can't get it, or I keep having all this bad luck. And so I would have this love-hate thing with money and say, fine, I don't need you. And so I chose a career that did not make a lot of money, that is very hard to make money at, and I didn't. So I don't know what that was, maybe some rebellion in that way, but I kind of looked at since it was so worshipped in our family, that it was like the favorite child. And it's like, that is above all else. And if you wanted to do something, well, we can't, because that's just, unless we have a coupon, or unless there's some special, or, so I kind of got this whole, I'm not worthy. Money is number one, and I'm not. So if money is like that favorite child, and I'm the not favorite child, I live in the shadow of money. So I had a lot of resentment in that way. So it was a very dysfunctional relationship that I had with money, and it really made my life unmanageable. And so when I started working the program, I was really concentrating on relationships. I thought, romantic relationships were the biggest failure of my life. And then that kind of got healed. All these other areas of my life got healed with the program: friendships, employment, relationship. And then I thought, okay, there's still one area that is not progressing as much as the other areas, and that was money. So I heard someone share in a meeting about fear of financial insecurity, and I really liked what she had to share. So after the meeting, I approached her and said, I really appreciate what you shared about money, and I just don't think money's talked enough about in meetings, even though it's been affected deeply by the disease of alcoholism. So she said, well, I'd love to talk to you more. So we started to talk more outside of the meetings, and it kind of just developed that she would become my, what I call money sponsor. So we agreed to work the steps just around finances. And I look at it like this, like in school, if I'm getting A's and B's in math and science and PE and whatever, but English, I'm still getting a D's and F's, I need some tutoring. So she's kind of like that, like I just needed some help in that area. So she said, well, we're going to do a fourth and fifth step on money. And we did that for a year and a half, which was deep. It went all the way back to any message you got about money, any distorted thoughts you have, where did it come from? I mean, we really just uncovered that area. So, so by working the steps around that area of money, that started over 3 years ago, and it was so timely because in the last 3 years, so many things have happened to me as far as financially, and that would just put me into absolute fear. But just in the last 3 years, we bought a house. I bought a car for the first time by myself. We got married, so we had the wedding thing. We went on an international trip for honeymoon. The house that I moved out of, I became a landlord over, and my brother owns half. Well, my brother on my mom's behalf owns half that house, and I've had to set a boundary with him. Thank God because of Al-Anon, because we can't work together. And I told him, either you sign a quitclaim deed or I do, but we are not selling this house together. We will ruin our relationship. And I could do that because of Al-Anon. Before, I could not do these big, grown-up, mature money decisions. There is no way. I would have curled up in a ball and just, buried my head. And so, because of God and program and sponsoring Al-Anon members, I've been able to navigate these big financial situations without jumping off a cliff. And that is because of working the steps, and I'm really thankful for not only the program in this area, but all areas of my life. So that's all I have. Thank you.